This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 134, where we are looking at Jessica Jones Season 2, the new trailer. Welcome back, fellow Defenders. Yes, we are sneaking in a little mini episode, little mini podcast-isode or something like that. I have got my drink in hand, a nice glass of red wine. I am drinking to remember the awesomeness of the trailer for Jessica Jones Season 2. This is Defenders TV Podcast. We are on episode 134, and I am one of your Cabernet Sauvignon drinking hosts, John.
And I'm your other host for this episode, Derek. Yes, a glass of red wine, not a bottle. So not as Jessica Jones as we could have been. And not whiskey either.
No, it's not whiskey either. But yeah, Netflix released today Jessica Jones's Season 2 trailer. A 2-minute run through what could possibly come up, and obviously will come up, with Season 2. Really interesting start. You know, this starts off with the car crash that killed her parents, and what we learn is that potentially killed Jessica Jones as well.
That was a shocker in the trailer.
It really was. Really interesting. The vibe I get from this certainly is kind of an introverted look at Jessica Jones's life. I mean, very much her past dominated Season 1 with Kilgrave and their former relationship. And again, we see here that there is that introspective look of Jessica Jones in relation to her past, but also set in the wider world of New York City, Hell's Kitchen, and looking like being set in a murder mystery. And dare I hasten to add, it could involve someone else who was brought back from the dead, because when Dr. Maya Hansen, played by Janet McTeer, tells Jessica this, she does ask, how many are there? Who is this killer? Are they, in the same way as Jessica Jones, part of a same experimentation? Or is it someone completely different?
And one huge bit of speculation there. Maya Hansen was a character that was used in Iron Man 3, played by a completely different actress. In this show, we've got Janet McTeer. Her part hasn't been announced. The part that she's playing on the show hasn't been announced, but we did notice on the subtitles of the Netflix version of the trailer, her character does come up as Hansen. So I wonder, are they using the character of Maya Hansen again from Iron Man 3, the person that invented Extremis? That was the main conceit in Iron Man 3, if you watch that movie. So interesting if they did do this and bring in Maya Hansen into the world of Jessica Jones, the person that experimented on what we hear in this trailer, the dead Jessica Jones, and bringing her back to life is what gave her powers.
Yeah, really interesting as well is, you know, we really wanted Typhoid Mary to show up or come in Season 2. We did think that the brother and sister upstairs from Jessica Jones, who ended up just being a sister because the brother was brutally murdered by Kilgrave.
Spoilers for Season 1, John.
Yeah, we did kind of think that she would have made a great Typhoid Mary. And, do you know, I know it's only a hint of ginger in Dr. Hansen's hair, but Dr. Nurse, kind of sickly, that kind of thing. Maybe there's some kind of Typhoid Mary thing there. Maybe the killer is Typhoid Mary. Who knows?
Maybe, or maybe this is Dr. Mary Hansen, Maya's sister.
Yes.
Who happens to be Typhoid Mary Hansen.
Exactly. Possibly. And of course, you know, the killer could be a lady. It may not necessarily be a man.
Absolutely.
So it could be Typhoid Mary.
Yeah.
There you go. There's my out of the ballpark kind of prediction on this.
Yeah, there's quite a lot coming from this trailer, definitely, and lots of speculation. Obviously, as John mentioned earlier on, this is spoiler-filled speculation, so not really spoiler-filled. This is only our thoughts looking at the trailer, at what we've seen. It is great to see Eka Darville back as Malcolm Ducasse in this. We saw him in The Defenders alongside Rachael Taylor's Trish Walker. We saw both of them in The Defenders together, seeing a much more healthy Eka Darville playing the role of Malcolm Ducasse. And this season, we can speculate that he's off the drugs, now working with Jessica. So that's a really good thing.
Definitely. We see him screaming his lungs out at one point in the trailer. I think tears in his eye, like, has something happened to Jessica? Or what's happened in that particular scene? Really interesting. We get the Jaws shot, the classic Jaws shot. So it's where the door looks like it's going back, and the eye line of Jessica as she walks into that laboratory where she's remembering about the experimentations. I mean, you really do get the sense of things playing in Jessica's mind again, a bit like with Kilgrave, to the point where we do get Kilgrave at the end of the trailer.
Has to be him, right? That's the purple light and him clapping away as Jessica has solved something in her own mind. A great little use of the character. Really hopeful, although I did love Kilgrave in the first season. I'm really hopeful that we don't get a lot of him in this season. I'm hopeful that he plays a part in her mind. We do get this idea of him still being there and still being involved in her life, because she can never really get rid of what happened to her, the abuse that happened to her. But I'm hopeful that it's not something like he's brought back to life or there's a clone or anything like that.
And I think that's what I meant by that introspective, introverted feeling or view on the world that Jessica Jones brings. You know, it's very internal. You hear about these deep questions that she's got that have been going for 17 years, and you see Kilgrave reappearing. It presumably, and I would say, you know, it's going to be in her mind, or all these different things coming back to her memory that she's trying to drown in drink. I mean, it's. I love in the bar where the bar lady is going, "Are you drinking to forget or to remember?" You know. Really, really good.
Yeah, especially Jessica's response saying, just because you're nice about it doesn't mean you're going to get a better tip.
Yeah, so that's really good. And just coming back to the Jaws shot, what I meant by that was Jessica goes into this laboratory and then the door seems to be peeling away from her as the corridor comes back. That is the classic shot in Jaws, the original, where you zoom in on the object but you track back on a dolly.
Right.
So you get that feeling of being sucked down a corridor that's ever expanding.
And it's interesting that you point that out. This kind of subtitle for this trailer is "Push the Door Open Wider." That's the whole point of Jessica's shedding some more light on her past, which is something that we didn't really see because her life had been taken and destroyed so much by David Tennant's Kilgrave in season 1 that she really had no inkling of what happened to her and what happened with her parents and how she got her powers because she was so focused on Kilgrave in season 1. I'm really excited to see them open up that world of what happened to her and how she got these powers, because she just wasn't interested in the past. And you can see in this trailer, there's kind of that connection now that she's gone off with the Defenders and done, you know, this whole battle against some much bigger foe than she dealt with in the past alongside other heroes. Now she kind of wants to know her history.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to that kind of look at Jessica Jones in terms of her own internalization of Kilgrave, at least we see at the end of this trailer, but also her past. I think that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And my favourite non-Jessica Jones line of this episode, I think I mentioned in our Facebook group immediately after the trailer was shown, is we have Trish Walker here, Rachael Taylor, sitting beside Jessica Jones going, "You may not need a sidekick, but you're going to get one anyway." Is this our proper Hellcat coming in?
I really hope so. That would be so cool. We speculated in season 1, you know, Trish Walker is Hellcat in the comics. Were we going to see Hellcat? And we didn't. We got a really good friend who absolutely loved doing martial arts and self-defense. And I reckon that they are going to be put to some good use in this episode. Yeah. And it would be great to see these two ladies coming together. It was really good. Seeing them in Defenders as well together with the coffee gag walking along the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You know, Jessica's obviously laced with whiskey. So really, really good. I think the other interesting thing about this idea that, you know, the superpowers were a side effect of her coming back from the dead or being brought back from the dead. But it's kind of a nice little tie-in to maybe, you know, that shared feeling between her and Luke Cage. You know, they've both been experimented on in different ways, and that idea of being out of control and having their bodies worked on and abused whilst they've been experimented on. That's kind of a nice little touch, I think, from that.
And also a good connection to Elektra from the Defenders series and from Daredevil, where she's brought back to life, and when she comes back to life, she's not the same character and has superpowers as well. So, you know, a little connection there.
Definitely.
We did see a lot in season 1 of Luke Cage and in Jessica Jones about the idea of a company that experimented on people, that had loads of video footage of Kilgrave being experimented on, potentially the same company. Maybe it's coming back, that micro SD card that was given over to Jessica Jones and to Luke Cage from Luke Cage's wife in first season of Luke Cage.
Definitely. Was it the same laboratory that also experimented on Kilgrave? Is that where he first saw her? Is that where their relationship sprang from? Even though maybe Jessica never fully knew that at the time.
Maybe.
It's really interesting to just speculate and to chuck out those wild theories and to see how absolutely and utterly wrong you are when the season actually starts.
That's our job on Defenders TV podcast.
We also see Hogarth is back, played by Carrie-Anne Moss here. And it appears as though she may have a new love interest here. We think played by Adaku Ononogbo. A character called Sheena. We're not entirely sure, but certainly they seem to be in a warm embrace here. Jessica Jones seems to also have a new interest here, as we said, played by J.R. Ramirez. Oscar. One of the, we were trying to see Oscar. Does that come up in Marvel? We got an Oscar Clemens, who is a detective in NYPD, which would certainly link in with, the private investigative thing. And there is a link there that he attempts with his partner to stop the Punisher. Just obviously we're in the middle, or coming to the end, I should say, of our look at the Punisher over on Defenders TV podcast. So that could be quite a nice little tie-in there. And certainly I loved I think there was a roll of the eyes from Jessica Jones when his son seemed to ask if she knew Captain America.
Yes.
Where she's like, I love Jessica Jones, always have done her, dry look at things like with great power comes great responsibility. She really does want to punch the wall if you say that to her. And again, even though you've got the adorable, cute little kid asking, do you know Captain America? She still gets that opportunity to roll her eyes. And she's obviously struggling with that superhero label as well.
Absolutely.
She really doesn't want it. So that's kind of interesting, I think, as well. But we also do see quite a lot of blood and gore, skeleton heads, collapsed scaffolding. Whether these are all different murders that have occurred will be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they bring into the show with this new relationship that she has with J.R. Ramirez's character in there. It's kind of an interesting place for Jessica to be now that she's able to feel safe enough to be with another man after what happened with Luke Cage, after what happened with Kilgrave, now moving on with another man who has a son. It's kind of an interesting relationship. How does Jessica play in the real world, which isn't just sitting in a bar getting drunk, having this idea of having a child around her. As Luke Cage once called her, she's a hard-drinking, short-fused mess of a woman. So having a child around her at all times would be quite interesting. I'm just kind of interested to see how that plays out in the show.
It could work. It really could work. It depends whether her mind is in the right place for it, possibly. And then there is Cheng, who is seemingly looking to buy Alias Investigations. What his motives are, we're not entirely sure. We get an idea from Jessica that he's wanting to incorporate maybe local investigative companies so that he can expand his own operations. So he must be an investigator in his own right.
Yeah.
We do see Jessica taking snaps of him from across the street from a different building. He's speaking to someone, not entirely sure, didn't really catch who that was. But then we do see them coming head to head where he really challenges her and says, you're not a superhero, you're a ticking time bomb. And she looks to go after him. So, who is this Cheng? What's he about? will be really interesting, I think, to find out. Again, we had a little search. Are there any Chengs? And all we did get back was Zhu Cheng, who is obviously one of Iron Fist's, the immortal Iron Fist's, big nemesis. But Zhu Cheng did pop up in Iron Fist Season 1 as a drunken defender of one of Madame Gao's hideouts.
Yes,
so it's unlikely to be him, but it could be a nice little tie-in to the Defenders and to Iron Fist in some way, but I suspect not.
You never know, and that character was played by Louis Tan, who I believe there's no real love lost between him and Marvel from some of the things he said online. So if it is Zhu Cheng, you never know. They could have recast him. You never know. That is a possibility.
As the Iron Fist fan of the podcast here, I'm always hopeful, but I suspect it's someone completely different. It'd be interesting to see what his involvement is with Jessica Jones and with Alias Investigations, and why they are coming to blows here. Is it adversarial, or is it for other reasons? It'll be really interesting to see.
I think the thing for me, and what I kind of like about this, is that there's something going on in her personal life, about the learning about her past and finding out about who this other person that was created at the same time as Jessica was. And then on the business front, when she's now finally getting Alias Investigations back up on its feet, she seems like she's answering phone calls. She seems like she's taking jobs again. Has Malcolm working in the office with her. They're actually doing a job, and now somebody's interested in buying that business up and taking it out of commission. So she's being beset on both sides, in her personal life and this in her business life.
Yeah, and a thought that's occurred to me is that Will Travel, who played Will Simpson, who we thought was Nuke at the end of Jessica Jones Season 1, maybe it's him who's going around killing people. You never know.
Maybe.
And it could be the same, could be a military laboratory that has done the same things to Jessica, that maybe with the pills that Will Simpson, I should say, was being given, maybe it's a similar kind of thing. So let's not forget that Will Simpson was also still an open question mark at the end of Season 1, so possibly it could be revolving around that. And of course, that would make for really an interesting confrontation if we see the emergence of Hellcat as Jessica's right-hand lady, because obviously Will Simpson has a history there with Trish Walker.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an interesting idea. I know we had originally speculated that it could come up in the Punisher series, that Nuke is more of a villain of the Punisher, so we could have seen him in that show, but it didn't pan out. Interesting not to see him in this trailer for the Season 2. Never know, he may be hidden.
Exactly. One little snippet as well, in the bar in the first few scenes after the trailer opens.
Is that Rosie's bar from Daredevil?
I don't know. I don't think so, but it could be. It's nothing to say that it's not, but I'm not too sure.
It just felt like the same layout as Rosie's bar from Daredevil, just shot from a slightly different angle.
And Jessica is in Hell's Kitchen, isn't she? So it could well be.
And she needs some new clients now that most of Daredevil's gang have moved out of that area.
But it could be, because the thing I was going to say is that behind the bar lady read a sign saying "No dogs allowed," and I suspect that this is in reference to the dogs of Hell's Kitchen.
Ooh, interesting.
The biker gang that really was central in Daredevil 2, one of the gangs that was also looking to be put down by the Punisher in Daredevil Season 2. So it certainly, I think, is Hell's Kitchen, and it could well be Rosie's bar.
Interesting. I love that we've read into that one a bit much. It could just be no dogs allowed.
But as well, maybe after the Defenders, she is honouring Matt Murdock, who she thinks maybe has died. I don't know if it comes after the Defenders this season. Sure it does. But she could be honouring him by drinking at his bar, because Luke Cage's bar certainly is no longer in existence.
Yeah.
Blown to smithereens it was.
Poor Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing all right. He's just looking forward, right?
Always forward.
A couple of other things about Season 2 of Jessica Jones. Obviously, I don't know whether we've even mentioned the release date is on the 8th of March, so 1 month away from now. We're going to get all 13 episodes of Jessica Jones season 2 after pretty much a 2.5-year gap or 2-year gap. It's quite a phenomenal thing when you look at the Netflix series. If you're a fan of Daredevil, if you're a fan of Luke Cage, if you're a fan of Jessica Jones, and not each of the other shows, and Iron Fist, not each of the other shows, you have to wait this long between series of those shows. We're very lucky to have had some Jessica Jones in The Defenders, but without The Defenders, take that apart, you've had over 2 years since the original show was released. So quite a long time to go for anybody to wait for another 13 episodes of the show. There's not that many shows that do that. A lot of complaints levelled at Game of Thrones because they're waiting 2 years between 2 seasons. A lot of complaints levelled at Westworld that it's waiting 1.5 years between 2 seasons. And this, I think I'll be right in saying, is probably the most critically acclaimed of the Netflix shows, having Jessica Jones, I think. Probably the one that stood out and probably the one that's mentioned most as being progressive and being interesting and different from the other shows. And yeah, we're talking almost 2 years since the last show was out.
It's mad, isn't it, really, to think along those lines. But certainly for me, I love Jessica Jones season 1. I thought it just gave an absolute gorgeous look at a female superhero. You also had sort of a really interesting alter ego or antagonist in the form of Kilgrave. You know, Krysten Ritter and David Tennant in those 2 roles really were superb.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, it was backed up by Eka Darville. It was backed up by Carrie-Anne Moss. And it was backed up by Rachael Taylor in a really, really great way. Excellent showrunner, excellent writing. Absolutely love season 1. I have to say, I cannot wait for season 2.
Absolutely. And the show is being brought back by Melissa Rosenberg, who did the first season. She was the showrunner on the first season of Jessica Jones. Have to also mention that this is the first Marvel Netflix show to have all female directors for this season of the show. I'm really delighted that they've done something like this in Marvel, being able to give the opportunity to many female directors to come on board and direct the show. A lot of them have done shows before within the Defenders universe, been given shows like The Punisher, like Daredevil, Iron Fist. It'll be interesting to see having all of those together and bringing this show to life. Does it give a different perspective on the show that we would have seen if it was all male directors? It has to be that way. I think it's a really cool idea to have them all on board for this show. It's coming out on March 8th, which is International Women's Day as well. So this is just set up to be one of my favourite shows of the year. I think I can already say that I'm as excited for this as I am for any of the Marvel movies coming out. Absolutely.
Cannot agree with you more. Yeah. Thank you for listening to us talk about the trailer for season 2 of Jessica Jones. Mm-hmm. If you want to check anything to do with Jessica Jones season 2, please head on over to defenderstvpodcast.com and check out the podcasts. Please subscribe, rate us, and leave a review. It all helps to spread and share the love with regards to the Defenders TV podcast. Please just head on over to our website and go to the subscribe area of your choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts, formerly known as iTunes, Google Play, or any other good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. Please just search Defenders TV Podcast and subscribe and leave a review. That would be great. We're also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast. Come and join the group. Come and join the community that has been built up over the Defenders series on Netflix. And leave your thoughts, leave your comments, get involved in the discussion for all things Jessica Jones Season 2, as well as Punisher Season 1, which we're reviewing and coming to our last episode on following this short little podcast on the trailer for Jessica Jones.
Yes, fellow Defenders, we have not delayed our Punisher podcast because of this podcast. We just had to get in the podcast room and discuss the awesome Jessica Jones Season 2. Once we're finished the Punisher, we'll be going on to Black Panther. Obviously, that movie comes out next week, and as we are recording, which is the 15th of February, we should have a review of Black Panther coming out directly afterwards. Hearing great things about that as well. Really excited to see what we've got in store on the first of the 6 2018 Marvel movies coming out. Really looking forward to that one as well. And if you're listening to us on just the Jessica Jones on Defenders TV podcast feed, we will be back with you on the 8th of March. As usual, straight after the first episode is aired on Netflix, you should be hearing our dulcet tones discuss what we think of that episode and each episode each week as we go after that. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. I'm off to go and fill up my wine glass so that I can remember the awesomeness of Jessica Jones Season 1 in anticipation for Jessica Jones Season 2. We'll be back with you soon. Bye.